Hello. Today's lecture will cover three topics. First, we will briefly discuss the LaTeX document preparation system as an alternative to word processors and presentation programs. Next, we will discuss how to back up a computer. We will discuss three different tools you can use, depending on what operating system you use, to effectively back up your machine. Finally, we will discuss digital rights or restrictions management, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and the political and free speech implications of these issues. Let's get started. LaTeX is an alternative to word processors and presentation programs. In LaTeX, you type in code somewhat resembling HTML. LaTeX is often used in computer science, physics, and mathematical research. I used LaTeX for these slides. Some advantages of LaTeX are easy collaborative editing, advanced mathematical notation features, the ability to use source code version control systems, and the ability to add unprinted comments to text. Some recent word processors have closed the gap with LaTeX a little bit. Current versions of Microsoft Word include collaborative editing features. However, LaTeX is still much more smooth in these regards than the alternatives. The only disadvantage to LaTeX is that you have to learn how to type in code. Let me show you what LaTeX code looks like. I will show you the LaTeX code for this presentation. As you can see, the syntax is fairly simple. However, it does take some getting used to. If you want to learn more about LaTeX, email me and I can point you to some tutorials you can use to get started. It's a very efficient way of creating documents. In PowerPoint or Microsoft Word, you have to use the mouse a lot to click things in order to change font sizes, change the font, underline things like that. LaTeX, you don't have any of that. But you can see, it does have a lot of these tags, they're called. So you have to just basically memorize some of this stuff. If you want to learn LaTeX right now, it might give you a head start on Alice programming. However, Alice specifically does not require you to learn syntax. So it's really just if this is something you think you'd be interested in. Begin frame. This is one page of the presentation. This is the title of that page. Itemize creates a bulleted point list. This is a bulleted point list inside of another bulleted point list. This ends a bulleted point list, ends the outer bulleted point list, ends the page. Once you get used to it, it's not that difficult. Might look a little more scary than it is. In any case, let's move on. Backing up your computer is extremely important. The textbook goes some into how to create backups, but I just like to point you in the direction of the easiest backup utilities I'm aware of. For Windows, if you use Windows 8, you can use a feature of Windows 8 called File History. It is an extremely easy to use and extremely effective backup program. I believe this is actually better than anything out there for other operating systems. And I am not a fan of Windows, so when I say that, you know that this must be a really good utility. Mac OS, you've probably heard, has something called Time Machine you can use to create backups. It's also an extremely effective utility. Linux has a clone of Time Machine called Back in Time, which you can use in a similar way to Time Machine to back up your computer there. So no matter what operating system you're on, you do have a good way of backing up your machine. I didn't cover previous versions of Windows because I think most of you are using Windows 8. However, if you're not using Windows 8, if you're using a previous version of Windows, and you would like some help backing up your computer, ask on IRC, and I'll point you in the right direction there. But I would recommend you upgrade to Windows 8, because file history is better than anything else out there. There are several websites that provide cloud storage for backups. I would not trust those. You don't really know anything about the companies offering them. You don't know if they're going to go out of business next month. And you can't be sure that they are safely storing your backups. Another issue is that you're giving your data to someone else. So if you're going to use a cloud storage service, you have to make sure to encrypt anything and everything you send them, because you don't want employees of that company to be able to go through your files. It would just be an invasion of privacy. We will cover encryption in Chapter 5, so next lecture. Why is backing up so important? Well, hard drives are prone to catastrophic failure. A hard drive will work one day, and then all of a sudden it will crash. Hard drives are magnetic cylinders that spin extremely quickly, so something with moving parts like that is inherently unreliable. The hard drives are manufactured pretty well these days. They still eventually wear out. Everything does. And hard drives usually don't give too much warning before they crash and are completely unrecoverable. Sometimes you can spend thousands of dollars to recover a crashed hard drive. There are businesses called data recovery services that provide that service. However, you probably don't want to spend that much money when you could have just backed up your data beforehand and not had to go to all that trouble and expense. There are many other ways you could lose your data. Much data is stored on laptops these days. In addition to a laptop's hard drive crashing, you might spill lemonade on it and short out the computer and overvolt the hard drive and break the hard drive that way. The final reason to back up is that while it used to be difficult, now it's easy. These three services make backing up fairly painless. You do have to take a little time to set up these programs and do it, but at least for me, my data is worth it. I don't like losing things. Losing old, school projects from when I was in school, old emails. Think about old photographs. Think about it. There's probably a lot on your computer that you would like to keep. Maybe there was something on a computer that broke that you would wish you could get back. Backing up is just a good preventative measure. It's a good example of the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Next topic, digital rights or restrictions management. Digital rights management consists of technological measures that companies use to frustrate attempts to copy digital media, typically movies and ebooks. DRM has been eliminated from almost all digital music. Now, this is a very complex topic, and a very important topic, and a topic that I have a great interest in, and I could probably talk for hours about this. However, I won't. We'll just cover enough for you to get a general sense of the issue, and if this is the essay question, and it is the essay question you want to answer, you may have a choice. Give you the information you need to point you in the right direction. So, first thing to note about DRM is that it stops copying for any reason. Now, one reason that people copy digital media is to distribute it illegally. And DRM, if it works, will stop that. However, it also prevents copying for a number of legitimate reasons, such as these. And I'll let you read that on your own. DRM significantly affects the consumer's experience with digital media. For example, compare music with movies. Music does not have DRM, movies do have DRM. If you buy something on a CD, you can take it off of the CD and put it on your MP3 player. If you buy music online, you can burn that copy of music that you bought to a CD. Movies, you can do neither of those things. If you buy a DVD, unless you break the DRM on it, you cannot put it on a portable movie player such as a tablet or your phone or anything like that. If you buy something online, typically you don't even have a copy of it on your local computer. Usually it's streamed from an internet service like Amazon Instant Video or something like that. And there's no way that you can burn it to a DVD that you can then take with you. So, just comparing these two things, what's better for the consumer? Well, obviously, music gives the consumer more options. And I don't think anybody likes the ads that are often on commercially bought DVDs and Blu-rays. The DMCA is the most important law in the United States regarding digital rights management. There are two major provisions. One has nothing to do with digital rights management, the safe harbor provision. Safe harbor provision isn't really controversial, although the SOPA law, which you may have heard of, Wikipedia went black for a day. If you remember that, if you tried to go on Wikipedia and it was completely black, that was protesting this proposed law, which was not passed ultimately. It would have weakened the safe harbor provision, allegedly. So that provision isn't really controversial. The anti-circumvention provision is the one relevant to DRM. It makes it illegal to circumvent DRM on copyrighted works or distribute tools that facilitate circumventing DRM on copyrighted works. So one important thing to note about it is that it criminalizes circumventing DRM even when there is no underlying violation of copyright. Now, and that doesn't seem fair to many people, including some judges, and so those judges have read an exception into the law which says that it's not illegal to circumvent DRM if you're not violating copyright, if there's no underlying violation of copyright. Some judges have read that exception in, some have not. It hasn't been effective in curtailing circumvention tools. They're readily available on the internet. Often they're hosted outside of U.S. jurisdiction, not often. There are some copies in U.S. jurisdiction, and just nobody has bothered trying to take them down. France seems to be a popular choice to host these projects because the VLC project, you're probably using the VLC media player to watch this lecture, that the VLC project is an umbrella project that has a lot of movie-related software on it, including these circumvention tools. So that's why they're hosted in France. The argument for DRM is that if you want to make fair use of a movie, if you want to use a scene in some critical commentary or something like that, you don't need circumvention tools. All you need is a camcorder, and you can point it at your TV screen and take just the part of the movie you need to use in your commentary, and that'll work well enough. Now, they're not saying to go to a movie theater and use a camcorder. That is illegal under federal law and carries very severe penalties. But using a camcorder, pointing a camcorder at your own TV is a different beast, and it is what the movie studios suggest doing instead of using these circumvention tools if you need a clip of a movie. Now, one thing that kind of makes you scratch your head is, well, if the movie studios are telling you to do this, to point a camcorder at the screen, well, that would also work for copying the whole movie. So what's the point of all of this in the first place? So that's something to think about. Final thing to think about is the free speech implications of prohibiting distributing these circumvention tools. Because software is composed of ideas, and these ideas are expressed in specialized languages that can be translated into code that the computer understands. But the ideas themselves, there's nothing special about them relative to other ideas. You can express software code in natural languages such as English, and humans can think about those ideas just as easily as if they were expressed in the specialized languages. So software is speech. So prohibiting the distribution of certain types of software creates a free speech issue. This issue hasn't fully been tested in court. One past prohibition on software distribution was exporting cryptographic software. The U.S. prohibited the export of cryptographic software. The way one project, a very important project, the PGP project, got around this issue was by printing out the code for the software as a book, and then taking the book out of the United States and OCRing it. Now, OCR means optical character recognition. It's how Google will let you search for text in a book and then show you the page in the book it's on. It's looking at an image of text and then discerning what letters are in that image. So they printed out the software as a book, exported it from the US, and then scanned the software in and did OCR on it. And they did this for over 6,000 pages of code. And this worked. Nobody was charged or fined or anything for exporting the cryptographic software from the US, probably because prohibiting the distribution of a book creates some obvious free speech issues, and that probably wasn't the test case the US would want for that. So that's another issue to think about, the free speech issue. If this were a traditional class, I would now ask you for your opinions, for your thoughts on DRM and the DMCA, and things like that. Since this is not, we'll just point you in the right direction if this interests you and you want to think about it further. Wikipedia. If you've noticed, I like Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a good article on digital rights management. It's fairly long, so you probably don't want to read the whole thing. But the reason I point you to Wikipedia so often is that for technological policy issues, it has fairly well-written and informative articles. Wikipedia excels in this particular area. So if this is the essay, or it's one of the essay questions you want to answer, you may have a choice. This is where you want to look next for stuff to put in your essay. That's all for today. I will post another lecture for you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day.